Hey, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new series that we're going to be doing on Reputation. I'm going to be going track by track to see if I can find a deeper meaning within each of the songs. I want to say thank you to everyone that has been commenting and being excited for this series. I feel like this is probably my most anticipated video or series in general. So I'm really excited to go on this journey with you guys. I want to give a shout out to all of the comments that kind of gave me information about going into the series, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. I have a couple plans on all of those things, but I wanted to highlight this comment right here just because this is so informational about some performances that I should look into since I'm going to be doing the Reputation tour after all of the individual videos. So thank you so much for this comment. And again, there were so many other ones too, but this one was just very helpful. But while looking at all of your guys' comments, someone did tell me that I should read the prologue to the album. That way I can go in knowing a little bit of Taylor's intentions or just like what's kind of going on with the message of this album. And then diving into that, I realized that she also has 3 poems. So apparently Taylor Swift's a little bit of a poet on this album. So just because the first track, Ready For It, has a music video, multiple performances, and a lyric video that I need to do, this video would have been like an hour long if I would include the prologue in this. First video of the Reputation series will be diving into Taylor Swift as a poet. We're going to read the prologue of the album, make our guesses, make our assumptions, and then we're also going to read the other 2 poems and just kind of talk about those today as a light introduction to the album. And then very soon we're going to start with Ready For It. So I hope you guys aren't too mad that we're not actually getting into a song today, but I do hope you stick around just to kind of listen to her poetry and see if we can decode this the same way that we do all the songs. But I've talked enough, so let's get straight into it. All right, so the first one that we are going to read is the album prologue. There's a couple paragraphs, so I'm going to take it paragraph by paragraph. So you're about to listen to me monotonely read, but let's just get started. It says, here's something I've learned about people. We think we know someone, but the truth is we only know the version of them that they have chosen to show with us. We know our friend in a certain light, but we don't know them the way their lover does. Just the way their lover will never know them the same way that you do as their friend. Their mother knows them differently than their roommate, who knows them differently than their colleague. Their secret admirer looks at them and sees an elaborate sunset of a brilliant color and a dimension in the spirit of pricelessness. Oh my gosh, I already can't talk. And yet a stranger will pass that person and will see a faceless member in the crowd, nothing more. We may hear rumors about a person and believe those things to be true. We may one day meet the person and feel foolish for believing the baseless gossip. Okay, so one random thing I already wanted to mention is this reminds me a little bit of To All the Girls You Loved Before, the song that I listened to on this channel a little while ago. Because it's just saying like your mother brought you up loyal and kind of showing how people do know you differently. Even all the girls you loved before, it's like they knew the version of you at that point in time. Everyone grows and changes all the time. So knowing someone 5 years ago doesn't mean you know the person today. But overall, the thoughts I got out of this first paragraph is just kind of feeling like misunderstood, or the person being talked about feels a little bit misunderstood, because the last line saying that you feel foolish for believing the gossip when you actually get to know the person, you're judging someone's worth off of things that you don't even know are true. So I get the feeling that this person or whoever just feels misunderstood in general. So I wonder if that's going to be like kind of the theme throughout the album, but let's keep reading the second paragraph. It says, this is the generation that will be able to look back on their entire life story documented in pictures on the internet, and together we will all discover the after effects of that. Ultimately, we post photos online to curate what strangers think of us, but then we wake up, look in the mirror, and look at our faces and see the cracks and scars and blemishes and cringe. We hope someday we'll meet someone who will see that same morning face and instead see their future, their partner, their forever. Someone who will still choose us even when they see all the other sides of the story and the angles and the kaleidoscope that is you. That's actually so heartwarming. Another comment on my video, and I don't really like to talk about her personal life if she doesn't really divulge it, but another comment told me that this album's going to be kind of rough because this is her first love album kind of for her current relationship, which I think is rumored to just very recently ended. And I feel like that's also kind of sad to like hear that this is kind of the beginning of that, and you're saying that this person finally saw behind those cracks and those scars, and then you just want that person to choose you forever. But I really like the message of this because it's like the harsh reality of love that I feel like not everyone talks about. Or maybe people do talk about it. They always say marriage, or even if it's not marriage, it's hard sometimes. You're not always going to be in the perfect spot. You're not always going to be exactly what your partner needs. All you can hope is that you're able to grow and change with that person and just be what they need at that point in time, and then also be a good person for yourself. And I feel like she connected that to social media to say that I hope that the persona that you made is close enough to you, that way when you're going through those hard patches, that partner knows what to expect from you. Because if you presented something completely different, you can't necessarily blame your partner for being upset or not very happy with you, if they were kind of like promised something different. And again, people change and everything, but you don't want to have a completely different identity outside of what you actually are. And I think that's also pretty interesting too. So this is actually incredibly deep already. Paragraph 3 says, the point being, despite our need to simplify and generalize absolutely everyone and everything in this life, humans are intrinsically impossible to simplify. We are never just good or bad. We are mosaics of our worst selves and our best selves, our deepest secrets and our favorite stories to tell at dinner parties, existing somewhere between our well-lit profile photo and our driver's license shot. We are all a mixture of our selfishness and generosity, loyalty and preservation, pragmatism and impulsiveness. I've been in the public eye since I was 15 years old. On the beautiful and lovely side of that, I've been so lucky to make music for a living and looking out into crowds of loving, vibrant people. On the other side of the coin, my mistakes have been used against me, my heartbreak has been used as entertainment, and my songwriting has been trivialized as oversharing. When this album comes out, gossip blogs will scour the lyrics from the men that they can attribute to each song, as if the inspiration for music is as simple and basic as a paternity test. There will be slideshows of photos backing up each incorrect theory because it's 2017 and if you don't see a picture of it, it couldn't have happened, right? Let me say it again louder for the ones in the back. We think we know someone, but the truth is we only know the version of them that they have shown us. There will be no further explanation. There will just be reputation. Wow, that's such a boss move to end that off on. Another comment did tell me that she basically did no interviews for this, so this is kind of lengthy just to kind of explain her side of the story, I guess. But I think the most interesting part about this is how little some things have changed, because she word dropped the word 2017, but yet some of these things still reign true, especially with the kind of breakup thing that we were talking about a minute ago. And I guess I'm a little bit guilty of this as well, be saying like the paternity test, because I make my assumptions too about certain songs that I listen to, but it's never meant in that way. But I do understand that that could be viewed as intrusive. But I think one of my favorite lines that I kind of wanted to mention is, we are a mosaic of our worst selves and our best selves. It really is so true, because it's all about your audience. Because I'm not going to act the same way that I would act in front of my boss as opposed to making a YouTube video. It just depends on who you're talking to and who you're trying to impress, I guess, in that moment. The only positive thing that I can see that might have changed since 2017 is I do feel like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like people are really attacking her breakups lately, because she's kind of saying that her mistakes have been used against me and her heartbreak is entertainment. I'm not sure if it's being used in the same way anymore, because I feel like the TikToks and stuff that I've seen about it is actually people like mourning her relationship, and I guess that's still somewhat of a point of entertainment, but it seems like it was more in her corner rather than just saying that, oh, she lost another man or something along those lines. It actually felt like, wow, I really also thought this was forever. Like, don't do this to me, mom. Like, I've seen TikToks like that. So I'm sure it's still hard when everyone is just talking about your life and the decisions that you've made. I'm not going to pretend like that's not the case, but I do think that at least in the positive sense, it doesn't seem like a breakup will destroy her reputation again. But I kind of alluded to this already, but it's such a mic drop. There will be no further explanations, just reputation. I really hope that's a lyric in one of the songs. I'm not sure if there will be, but that would be really cool if this gets included somewhere down the line. All right, so now we're going to actually move into the first poem. The first one was just like kind of a paragraph or a story, so it didn't really have like the rhyming. And I know all poems don't rhyme, but I expect this one to be a little bit more cohesive, I guess, in the thoughts. And this one's called If You're Anything Like Me. It says, if you're anything like me, you bite your nails and laugh when you're nervous. You promise people the world because that's what they want from you. You like giving them what they want, but darling, you need to stop. If you're anything like me, you knock on wood every time you make plans. You cross your fingers and hold your breath. Wish on lucky numbers and eyelashes. Your superstitions were the lone survivors of the shipwreck. Rest in peace to your naive bravado. If life gets too good, darling, it scares you. So far, I feel like this is a shout out to the people pleasers. I have described myself in a couple videos as a people pleaser. I am very much that type of person. I think sometimes that's a good thing, because I feel like it allows me to be open to criticism and just try to continuously top myself or be better than I have before. But at the same time, it does give you like very little work-life balance, or just you're always trying to improve yourself to the point where it's exhausting. And I say that as a non-famous, very regular person, so I cannot imagine how level of a scale it is to Taylor Swift, where she does essentially have to promise the world to people. Even on this tour, she promises weekends for like the next year to everyone that wants to see her. The details that she gives in her songs to keep people interested is so personal, where I feel like that does leave very little balance in her life. So I guess the other theme that's coming out of this is like protecting yourself a little bit more. I know we haven't gotten into any of the songs. So far, the overall vibe is like taking that step away from the spotlight in order to find yourself again. So I think that's where we're going to kind of keep going. The next part says, if you're anything like me, you never wanted to lock your door, your secret garden gate, or your diary drawer. Didn't want to face the you didn't know anymore, for fear she was so much better before, but darling, you now have to. If you're anything like me, there's a justice system in your head for names you'll never speak again, and you make your ruthless rulings. Each new enemy turns to steel. They become the bars that confine you, and your own little prison cell, but darling, this is where you meet yourself. Wow. Oh my gosh, these need to be lyrics. This is crazy. I thought sometimes she has some deep cuts in her songs, and she does, but that has a lot to unpack. I like the part about not wanting to lock your door, because that reminds me of Long Story Short. It says, like, if someone comes after us this time, I know I'm ready. Maybe this is like the before part where it's like she wasn't ready. She used to not lock this metaphorical door. She let people in that should not have been left in. And what she had to do during this reputation period was learn that you need to turn back around and kind of guard yourself a little bit. And that led her to like Folklore and Evermore, where she's a little bit more comfortable in herself and says, I might still lock that door, but if it ever gets broken into, I know how to defend myself. So I kind of feel like I already know the growth that comes out of this, which is kind of cool. But then another really cool part is the enemies that turn into steel that becomes the bars that confine you. It's almost like you make problems in your head a little bit. And that reminds me of like This Is Me Trying, of like going through internal struggles, because you have to make these people your enemies, and like maybe they really did do something wrong to you, but maybe it's a combination of you not being able to let it go, or you might have other issues that kind of go on in your head, but it's just not allowing you to move on. And I feel like that's almost like a looking in the mirror moment. It's like, now that I've had time to sit with this, it's almost like, have I contributed to my own problems? And like, I know in Taylor Swift's scenario, she was kind of the innocent party of her issues, but at the same time, maybe there was decisions that she made, and she's kind of looking in the mirror saying, you know what, I didn't start this. This isn't my fault. But ever since it's happened, have I made decisions that maybe have made my life a little bit worse, just because I'm either afraid or other reasons besides that? But it's just kind of like, maybe I need to look within and say, maybe there's things that I could do better to avoid the situation. And maybe it's not necessarily like the enemies. Maybe it was more, again, stepping away, where it's saying like, if I remove myself from these situations, I can't have bad things happen to me. So maybe there's something along the lines with that. Now we're getting into the last two stanzas, I guess, where it says, if you're anything like me, you've grown to hate your pride, to love your thighs, and no amount of friends at 25 will fill the empty seats at the lunch tables of your past. The teams that picked you last, but darling, you gotta keep trying. If you're anything like me, you couldn't recognize the face of your love until they stripped you of your shiny paint, threw the victory flag, and you saw the ones who wanted you anyway. Darling, later on you will thank your stars for that frightful day. If you're anything like me, I'm sorry, but darling, it's gonna be okay. Man, she doesn't even have to sing to really get this message across. I always thought maybe it was the music, but it's pretty much anything she writes. I'd read a book by her. The shiny paint and the victory flag kind of just seems like it's repeating that part a little bit about like how the event in her life just like conquered her. So I don't really have a lot to say about that. I do like the part about being stripped of your shiny paint and realizing that people will still want you after that. I keep making song comparisons, but that also just reminds me a little bit of Mirrorball, where you have to be on, where she mentioned in like the Long Pond thing, where she has to be on for everyone, but it's the people that see you when you're not trying to show off. And I feel like that's, again, the growth that she ends up having, where people still want you when you are at like a very low point in your life. And that just shows you like who your real friends are. It's almost like where you have friends before fame, where they liked you before you had something to gain from being their friend. I feel like it's just an example of how people will like you when it's beneficial and they'll hate on you when it's not. I feel like that's also very prevalent in cancel culture, where people will get canceled for a week, within their fans are back in like a week. And it never really sticks. There's probably a handful of celebrities that you can think of when you say that, but we're not going to really get into that. All right, so now we're going to get into the very last poem of the Reputation album, and it's called Why She Disappeared, and it's the shortest one, so if you're still listening, we're almost done. It says, when she fell apart, cracked her bones on the pavement that she once decorated as a child with sidewalk chalk. When she crashed, her clothes disintegrated and blew away with the winds that took all her fair-weathered friends. When she looked around, her skin was splattered with ink from words forming 1,000 voices. Echoed she heard even in her sleep, whatever you say is not right, whatever you do it's not enough, your kindness is fake, your pain is manipulative. I feel like that first line is exactly what I just said of how people will like you when it's beneficial, and all her fair-weathered friends clearly left when her fame was down, or like she just wasn't the most popular thing to like at the moment. She lost probably a lot of friends. And as hard of a moment that probably is, like she mentioned in the last poem, you're probably thankful for that day because you don't want to have another event where you find out that all the people that you thought were in your corner are actually not there for you at all. So it sucks that you had to find out in that way, but it's probably for the best. That way you can kind of figure out what's really important there. And then the only other thoughts I really have is I wonder if the whatever you say is not right is like a direct quote, because it does have quotes, so I wonder if that's like something that someone maybe actually told her. But let's just keep reading. When she lay there on the ground, she dreamed of time machines and revenge and a love that was really something, not just the idea of something. When she finally rose, she rose slowly, avoiding haunts and sidestepping shiny pennies, wary of phone calls and promises, charmers, dandies, and get love's quick schemes. When she stood with a desolate knowingness, waded out in the dark, wild ocean up to her neck, bathed in the brokenness, said a prayer of gratitude for every chink in the armor she never knew she needed. Standing broad-shouldered next to her was a love that was something and not just the idea of something. When she turned to go home, she heard the echoes of new words, may your heart remain breakable, but never by the same hand twice. And even louder, without the past, you could never have arrived so wondrously and brutally by design or some violent, exquisite happenstance here, and in the death of her reputation, she truly felt alive. This is so much to process. I'm actually like very shocked. Like, I did know coming into this video that there was 3 poems, but I really just kind of thought, I don't like you guys. Like, I thought it was going to be very tongue-in-cheek, but this is actually very cool and very like detailed. So I guess a summary of the things that I've liked is it maybe took her a while, but she finally rose back up, and like they always say that you rise higher than when you fell, you always get back up and fight, and it seems like she did that, and that she was tired of maybe getting into these relationships of these quick schemes. Maybe that's like like PR relationships or things that might help her reputation get back up. She doesn't want those anymore. She wanted something that she could actually call her own. And then a part that I'm stuck on is said a prayer of gratitude for every chink in the armor she never knew she needed. I feel like that's a circle back moment to the thing about turn around to lock the door. It's like she didn't know that she needed to be on guard at all times, but then now she's thankful that something that has broken her has allowed her to build herself back up even harder, and now she has the defenses that she needs for the next time that this happens to her. And then somewhere along the lines, it looks like she actually found the love that she was looking for, which is another kind of heartbreaking thing to assume. I don't want to keep talking about it, but that person that kind of got her through what seems like maybe the darkest point of her life maybe isn't around. But my one comment about a relationship that I'll kind of just lay it to rest now is I don't think that takes away from the love that you had. And maybe I'm completely wrong on this. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I still think that these songs and these poems are so true, even if she's no longer with this person. And for every situation, it still doesn't negate the fact that that person was exactly what you needed at that time. There's always right place, right time, or wrong person, wrong time. But this person served exactly what you needed it to do. And I think that's still a very beautiful thing, is like you would never look back, as much as whatever this person might have done to you in current time, you would never look back at this time and says, I wish I never met that person. And those are the people that you don't regret meeting, I feel like. Because if you hadn't met that person, would you have ever gotten to the point where you are at now? I feel like the only heartbreaking part that people will keep mentioning is like, there are songs that are kind of like Invisible String where you kind of think that this person got you through that tough time, so there's quite possibly no way that this person could leave, because like they've seen you at your darkest, that you would assume that when you're kind of at your biggest peak in life, I'd argue for Taylor, is that time that you would really want to be around that person. But you know, things happen and it's not my place to comment on, but I do think that it doesn't negate the beauty of love in that snapshot of time. I feel like that even kind of connects to what I just said about may your heart remain breakable, but never by the same hand twice. You want to be open to people and you want to give people chances. The whole point of this reputation thing is to take a step back for yourself, but it's also not to be maybe guarded up all the time. Like, you don't want to be that person that can only survive by keeping to yourself. It's like, I want to still be the person that I was before, but I'm just a little bit smarter now. I'm not going to let people take advantage of me in situations to where I allowed this to happen, because if you can prevent certain situations, you clearly should do that. But you also want to be human and make mistakes and maybe talk to the person that you probably shouldn't have. And that's where, as long as you're not getting back with the ex, make a couple more mistakes and see how life will change and how maybe that person will serve as a lesson. But this is incredible. In the death of her reputation, she truly felt alive. I don't know. I really don't know how that ends my feelings of where we're going to go into this album. I feel like my initial thoughts, and I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but my thoughts of the Reputation album before going into it, and I want to preface that I do think I've heard some of the songs from this album. I do think this is probably one that I probably know at least a couple songs from. But as far as thematically and how it will translate into the other songs, I kind of am coming into the song thinking like bad bitch, I hate everyone kind of thing. And now I'm second guessing this with the poems. I guess we'll see as we get into the songs, but it seems like partly that, where it's like you're becoming the person that you didn't want to become because you kind of have to, but at the same time it's also being smart about how you live your life. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a complete revenge album anymore. I kind of thought this was going to be her mic drop, again, hate everyone, but I'm starting to second guess that, so I guess we'll just have to see as we go. But thank you for watching. Tell me if you have any thoughts on these poems. I'd really love to know. I feel like there's so much more that I really did not even touch on. So let me know if you know anything about it that maybe doesn't give everything away about the songs. But thank you for watching. I will see you in the first Reputation video of Ready For It.